Hey there. We're going to be making some Italian herb bread today. So down here I have 1 cup of warm water, about 1/8 of a cup of olive oil. I'm using extra virgin. You can use whatever kind you like. About a 1 capful of a Parmesan Romano cheese mix. It's, I don't know, probably also close to 1/8 of a cup. I always just put a little bit in the cap. I have 1 tablespoon each of oregano, parsley. I have some onion powder and garlic powder, basil, and also about 2 teaspoons of salt. I have 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, and I'm going to be using a total of 3 cups of all-purpose flour, but I'm going to be putting in about 2 cups to get started here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out by measuring out about 2 cups of the all-purpose flour. We can get it up there and try to level it out somewhat. I'm going to put it into the bowl of my stand mixer here. And I'm going to show you first how to do this with a stand mixer, but if you don't have one, don't worry about that. That's okay. I'm also going to show you how to knead this by hand. So basically the only difference if you don't have a stand mixer is to do this first phase just by mixing it up the best you can with a wooden spoon or sturdy spoon of whatever kind you may have. So I'm going to put all of my dry ingredients into the bowl. Here comes my seasonings, the cheese. Here comes the yeast. Alright, and I'm just going to put the paddle attachment to the KitchenAid on here just to start to get these dry ingredients incorporated. And back to the yeast, I'm actually using instant yeast or fast rise. If you are using the active dry instead of the fast rise, you're going to want to dissolve that in the warm water first and then add your dry ingredients. So now that I've got that started, I'm going to go ahead and add in my 1 cup of warm water. I'll put the exact temperatures up on the video as well. Alright, now I'm going to dump in my 1/8 of a cup of olive oil. I'm going to go ahead and turn my mixer on to low speed and start getting these ingredients incorporated. Alright, so I'm going to add about another cup of flour to make a total of 3 cups. I'll get it started with the paddle attachment. As soon as everything's mixed, I will switch to the dough hook in order to allow this to get kneaded up in the stand mixer. Here comes my final cup of flour. Alright, so we've switched over to the dough hook attachment. Now we're just going to go ahead and put that down, lock it down, and we're going to put it on low speed. Let it just start to pick everything up. Then we're going to bump it up just a few more notches. Right now I've got it on about 2. And I'm just going to let this go for probably about 5 minutes max. We're just going to knead this until the dough is nice and smooth and elastic. And like I said, I'm going to do this part first, but I'm going to show you in just a moment how you can knead this by hand if you don't have a mixer. Alright, so we've turned off our mixer. It's been about probably 5 minutes since we started it. And now we have this nice smooth ball of dough. It's very easy to work with. But now I'm going to show you how you would have kneaded this if you did not have the KitchenAid. So what I'm going to do is, even though this is technically already ready, I can still show you the technique. I'm going to put some flour on my cutting board. I have a dough scraper. This right here, there was one point when I could not find these at all, but now you can get them at Walmart. You can even get these for $1 at Dollar Tree, so they're not very expensive, hard to get to come by tools. I'm just going to kind of maneuver my flour around a little bit. Really don't need much because this dough is already ready. And basically what you do is you put your dough on your work surface and to grab it from the front, stretch it out a bit, fold it over on itself, take the palms of your hands, press down on it, forward, do a 1/4 of a turn, grab the front, pull it up, stretch it over on itself, pressing out with the heel of your palm. Now fold again. And basically the idea is you just do this until you get a nice, smooth, elastic ball of dough. I'm not showing you the entire process, just the technique, but you know now that this is your result, and that's how you get to it. Alright, so I've added a little bit of my olive oil into this bowl of the stand mixer. I'm going to take my ball of dough, put it down into the oil, flip it, turn it around a little bit, and flip it over on itself. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of getting it well coated with the oil. I'm going to put my fingers underneath it and basically press the bottoms of it to make a seam, so it's got a nice structure to rise in the bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to cover this up with some plastic wrap. And then I'm going to let it sit in a warm place for about half an hour or so to double in size. This is the fast rise yeast, so it's going to work a little bit faster than other types. You may be accustomed to it being about an hour's rise time, but half an hour is good for this. And what I've done here to allow this to rise faster is I preheated my oven to 200 degrees, then turned it off. So basically I can put it into the warm oven and it'll rise much easier than it would if I just left it on my countertop. I know y'all didn't sign up to watch me eat. Or maybe you did, I don't know. Alright, so we're back after about maybe half an hour to 45 minutes. Our dough has now doubled in size. So what we're going to do is we're basically just going to take our fingers and we're going to press this dough down, let all that air out. We're going to pull it out of our bowl. We're going to put it back onto our cutting board. I don't have it floured this time because it's very well oiled already, so it doesn't need anything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically just going to start by pressing it out like this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the front part, fold it about to the middle. Now repeat with the back, over towards the middle, overlapping the first fold just a bit. We're going to press it down at the seam. Take the karate chop part of your hand here. We're basically just going to press it down like this. Make a nice tight seam. What I do from here, take the front, fold it over again. Take the heel of your palm. Basically we're just going to be pressing on the seam again, right here. From here, I'm going to turn it this way. Take my hand, basically just going to take it and poke it underneath. Shape it into a nice long loaf. Now if you want, you can split this into 2 loaves. At this point, if you wanted, you could even cut it into, make breadsticks out of it. It's really up to you what you do with it at this point. But I like to make it one nice long loaf. I got an air bubble there, let's get rid of that. Make sure to check for air bubbles, make sure you don't have any left at this point. What I do is I'm just going to kind of even it out a bit. Over here, I have a cookie sheet that's lined with a generous dusting of cornmeal. This is both going to keep it from sticking and it's going to make a nice crunchy crust on the bottom. Just going to take both hands, I'm going to transfer this over here. At this point, you can just kind of smooth out the shape a bit. Just, you know, kind of play with it, get your hands in it, do what you got to do. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cover this up and it's going to rest for about another hour or so on my stovetop. But first, I've got to get the plastic wrap from up here. Get off there. Sorry. There we go. Alright, I've got a nice big box of plastic wrap. You can get ones like this from Sam's Club or Costco. Any kind of big warehouse store like that will have them. But this one came from Cisco anyway. I'm going to take it. I'm just going to loosely cover the top. We don't want it to press down on it too much because it's going to rise and we don't want it sticking to it when that happens. So we're going to leave this alone for about an hour or so. It's probably not going to take that long. Let's say half an hour. And then we're going to come back and we'll get it ready for the oven. Just kind of checking on our bread dough. It's almost ready to go. It's proofing up pretty quick right now. So we'll just come back to that in just a minute and we'll get it ready for the oven. Alright, so we're back and our bread is almost ready. Let's take a look, see how it's doing. Alright. So as you can see, the crust is golden brown. Our Parmesan Romano mix has toasted up nicely here. I've already turned off my oven, so I'm going to go ahead and just transfer this over to my board. It's very hot, so be careful with this. Alright, just going to slide that off, get my pan out of the way. From here, I'm just going to brush a little bit more olive oil over the top. And after this, I'm going to let it rest just long enough to let it cool. And then we'll slice it open and see what we've got going on here. We're going to be serving this as some homemade lasagna tonight, so at the end of the video we should be able to show you a picture of how it looks on a plate with some lasagna. I'm just rinsing off my pan here, don't mind me.
Yeah, Nicholas is just going to hate the horrible mess we're leaving for him.
I know. I did this weird concept of cleaning as we go. All right, so we've came back. We've let our loaf rest for about 5 to 10 minutes, and we're going to go ahead and slice it in half and see how our crust looks. I like to cut this. Well, you can go along the score, but I'm actually just going to go right straight down the middle. Got a serrated bread knife here. Just going to let the knife do the work. Cut right through. Open it up. And this bread is a very spongy bread. It's designed that way so that when you're eating it with lasagna or spaghetti, you've got something to soak up all the excess sauce. So let's go ahead and get a few slices of it here. Like a nice thick slice. Just going to cut right through it. And you can just hear that crust crackling as we cut through. See the steam coming up from it. Go ahead and hold that piece of crust in. Alright, so we finished up our bread, and I've got it plated here with some homemade lasagna. I'm going to make a video on the lasagna soon because this part is almost overshadowing my bread. I've got 2 slices of the Italian bread here. I've brushed some olive oil on them and dusted some Parmesan and Romano cheese. And I'm going to rotate this just so you can see the inside of the sauce of the lasagna. On the top here I have onions, olives, and sweet peppers sauteed up in some herbs and olive oil. And there's our Lodge cast iron skillet we just sauteed our vegetables in. And the only thing we have left to do is the most important part of all, which is eat it. Okay. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to see the full recipe, I've got the link in the description. And you can also click this button right here. And from there you can see the full recipe. And if you'd like to support me on Patreon, I've got a link for that right here. Should be, as long as we can get the editing done properly on it. So for now, we're good to go. We're going to eat this, and we will check back with you later.